80 degrees.
So our scientists on shore, and you'll hear many of them talking today, are participating either from Exploration Command Center, so replicas of what we're sitting in right now on the ship, or their home institutions, or even at home, because for some of them participating, it's very, very late at night or very, very early in the morning. They are important representatives from our academic, local, and state partners. And we'll introduce them in just a few minutes as well. Those of you watching now from home can see we are on the bottom, getting set up close to the bottom. We are at 4,989 meters. We're about 9 meters up off of the bottom. The partnership that we have with the NOAA National Center for Environmental Information is enabling us to make the data that we are collecting available to the public and to the scientific community within 2 to 3 months after they are collected. This is extraordinarily fast for data to be made available to the public. A typical timeline would be closer to 2 to 3 years. That's the amount of time that we individual scientists have to use the data, the samples that we collect on expeditions that for which we've been funded as a result of writing proposals and getting funding from federal agencies or private foundations to do this research. So this is a really unique way to make the data and the samples available to the science community. The samples that we collect, and we can collect up to 4 on each dive, 2 geology samples and 2 biology samples are also going to be made publicly available. The geology samples will be deposited at the Oregon State University Archival Repository. Biological samples are going to the Smithsonian Institution in D.C. And in addition, most of the biological samples that we collect are also being preserved for molecular analyses. Those samples will go to the Ocean Genome Legacy at Northeastern University, and the data from those analyses will also be made publicly available.
Water seems incredibly clear today. Say again, Shirley, I didn't hear you. Okay. Okay. Great, kia ora, everyone, and welcome to this dive of the Deep Discoverer and Sirius remotely operated vehicles. My name's Jeff Williams. I'm your pilot for the next 20 minutes or so. And I'm from the Global Foundation for Ocean Exploration.
Yeah, this crew actually started working a couple of hours ago, so they're about ready to take their first, I don't want to say break. I think you're going to probably be doing something else after this. Okay, Jeff, who else do you have with you up in the front row?
Yeah, up here on Team Blue, we have Fernando at Navigator, Sean at Co-Pilot. Over in the corner, Roland Bryan is our video engineer. Dan Rogers in the back row doing the clipping for the video.
He's multitasking.
So welcome everybody and enjoy the ride today.
Thanks very much, Jeff.
And watch lead. I think we're set up.
Okay,
Fantastic.
Thanks very much. We are ready to begin.
Pat, we are sitting on what looks like a sedimented seafloor, fairly light in color. We are down pretty deep, and what we're hoping to do is move up what is likely to be a pile of talus, so broken up fragments of the material that makes up the slope that will be rising for most of the dive. So the geology here is basically material that has deposited itself on the seafloor at the base of the scarp. And we generally call this a tailless pile. I'm not sure what the slope is. It looks fairly gentle. And we'll get a look at that as the pilots move the remotely operated vehicle back and forth. The way the ROV works, D2, is that we have a ship on the surface, of course, and it spools out the cable to the Sirius vehicle, which is attached to the ROV by a 30-meter cable. So most of the wire is spooled out from a winch that's below decks, and one of the ROV team goes in periodically to make sure that it's operating correctly, and he also controls the winch. The room that the winch is in is very hot, so he doesn't stay down there all day. It's like 100 degrees, but he does go in as it's spooling out to make sure that nothing is going wrong with the spool. This spool has about 8,000 meters of cable on it, so it's huge. And the cable itself goes off over the back deck, over a sheave, which is a circular device that is suspended from an A-frame, a big frame on the back of the ship that holds that spool, and then the wire goes down into the water to the Sirius vehicle. In order to get across the seafloor, then we have to move the ship, which moves the cable to the Sirius, and that permits the ROV D2 to have enough slack to be able to
I think that'd be good.
move around on the seafloor, collect samples, and position itself to zoom in on features on the seafloor. So on your screen right now,
maybe we
we're
get a
looking.
close-up of the substrate here when we can.
Okay. We have a slope that looks like
Yeah,
it's
just trying to decide whether this is all
40
sediment or whether
degrees.
there's some carbonate there too under the pebbles, just because it's multicolored.
Okay, well, let's just set ourselves down. Do you think we're going to want to take a sample here?
I can't say.
There's
Dunno
a white
till we
object on
see.
the top right, on the screen right.
I asked because it's going to take a long time for ship moves to translate down the wire, and if we're not going to take a sample, we'll probably start the ship move right now, so that in about 5 minutes we'll start to actually
Okay,
move.
Chris on shore, what we have a query about here on the ship is whether or not a sample in this locality would be worth it. The deal is that we would have to move the ship to start moving toward the slope, and so the question is, do you think that you would like to get a sample from the tailless pile or closer to the wall?
Well, first of all, how about if we take a close-up of the rock that's on the right middle of the screen right now, that light-colored rock that sort of has a circular pattern?
Okay.
And let's try to first
Zoom
see
in
what type
on
of rocks we've
the
got
rock
here,
on the
Patty,
right.
and then we can make a decision.
I think they're looking at the brown rock.
Right center, right almost at the screen, edge of the screen. Yeah, we're getting there.
Thank you. Okay, pilot's a little bit to the right of center.
Do me a partial zoom, please, roll.
It's upper
And
right,
Sean, if you would tilt
just
the
on the edge of field
Absolutely.
of view.
Tilting up. Is it the darker one or the lighter
Lighter.
one?
The lighter one.
a little higher.
The light brown one.
There we go.
Tilting down. Stopped.
And we will need a close
Tilting
zoom.
down.
Thanks.
Stopped.
Okay, I'm going to rotate a little bit.
We're getting there, Chris.
Okay, rolling.
Here we go.
Slight tilt up.
So, Chris, what do you think?
Max zoom.
This is max zoom.
Well, I guess the question I have, and this would be for you, Patty, is does this look like carbonate, which is what we're after? And if so, I'm trying to get a feel. I don't see anything in particular that stands out in the rock But I assume we're going to see a lot of these rocks, so maybe we could move up a bit until we get where there's a bit more talus grouped together. Then we'll have a pick of the litter.
Okay, Chris. I think looking at the
All right,
geology,
so-
the texture of this rock, this looks like sediment to me. For rudists, if I understand their morphology, they create
Sound good to you, Sean?
tube-like structures
I'm sorry,
with
say it again.
the top
0.2 knots?
shell
Yeah.
of the
What was
bivalve at the top,
other?
Yeah, towards the
and
end
they
point.
grow
Okay,
in
All right, sounds good.
What's the distance?
what will look
We
like
are...
Or no, you said
a series
you put
of
I haven't done it. I was gonna
cylinders.
do maybe 20 meters.
yeah, I'd be fine with that.
narrow at the bottom and
Did
getting
you say 20? I think
broader at
just
the
make it a
top,
bigger
but still
move so that
relatively
it keeps moving.
narrow with
40
respect
or
to
30?
its
40.
overall
40 would be
structure.
good? Okay.
And so I think what we would be looking for would be something that shows that kind of texture in an exposure. There certainly is a lot of white material on the seafloor that looks, I would think it's carbonate, although we are below the carbonate compensation depth,
I should
a
probably.
depth
Do you
of
want
about
lasers? Are
4,000
they on?
meters in the
Do you want
Western
lasers on?
Pacific,
Sure.
where
Bridge, this is nav.
Alright.
carbonates tend to dissolve in the seawater if they're exposed.
Pretty good. Requesting the first move to be 40 meters.
Yeah, I guess if we've only got 2 rocks possible
Zero
here, then yeah,
decibels.
let's
Two
look around a bit and be a
knots.
bit choosy.
Okay.
And maybe when they're ready, we could go ahead and start up slope a
copy.
bit and see if we can get into a little richer area.
Right. All right. Can do.
So, watch lead, I think I heard that we want to start up this slope.
We do want to start up the slope a bit.
Okay.
And we want to be on the lookout for piles of rocks that might have fossils in them.
Yeah, and like that large white boulder that's right in the center there, I don't know what that is, whether it's a sponge or whether it's some other type of rock.
Nah, it's probably a rock. I don't think it's a sponge.
Watch lead pilot.
Go ahead.
Yeah, did you hear that? We're going to just
This
take a quick
fella
look
right
at
here.
that white rock in the center.
Just working my way over to it.
And I might also recommend we, once we finish with that, we do a partial zoom, let you fly over the
And
area.
then after that, there's sort of a boulder a little further up slope that looks pretty interesting too.
Ooh, what?
So Patty is showing the pilot what the rudists look like on land, so he can get kind of a search image on it.
Okay, so we see something like that. All right. All right, sorry, video. I was a little distracted there. Can we go full wide again if we're finished with that rock?
Full wide.
Thanks.
Yep, I don't. That glare's gone now. I don't know what
Okay.
changed it though.
Okay.
So
I know it
That chunk of white
Keep an eye
stuff
on it.
does look like could be carbonate.
sure does.
If
I was
we
going to
wanna-
ask you about that.
Yeah, if we want to find some fossils of rudists, we need to look for something sort of
you're drifting
tubular.
out. Port. I can turn if you want.
Okay, well, I've been sort of sitting here looking at this
maybe
rock.
I'm
so
drifting.
Maybe you're drifting.
Big.
Big.
So the species of rudist, they can take all types of forms, and
Okay.
the forms change. They originated in, I think, the mid to late Jurassic, and then they ended in the end of the Cretaceous. So they had quite a few million years there to evolve, and so there's quite a lot of different shapes. From what I can tell, there have not been that many that have been documented in the Pacific, and a couple species that have been, well, there's this Caprina mulleri that's been documented in the mid-Pacific mountains. This is all through trawling. And then another thing, and I don't have my rudist papers with me today because I forgot them stupidly.
Oh, that's
But
okay.
they said there's members of the Polyconidides that are here in the Pacific. It's known too. But also just looking for carbonate rock that could be old reef, whatever it looks like. If it looks like it's a really interesting sample, then we could go ahead and take that.
Okay.
We would just strike it rich if we saw some clear rudous clams. That's why I'm keeping an eye out for them.
You bet.
We have about 2.5 hours in this part of 3 hours total, so about 2.5 hours left in this part of the dive, the benthic part of the dive. That's because we're so deep.
Morning, Jeff.
Oh wow! What the heck is that?
No, that looks like an interesting structure.
Morning, both co-pilot.
That is really interesting structure.
Are you interested in that piece of material, Chris? Because I think it would be loose
Patty,
enough.
Does this look like anything that you're familiar with that could have been caused by volcanics, for example?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, full wide, please, video. Let me go
So-
ahead and settle in on this. And nav if
Pilot,
we can
watch
get-
me.
Is that rock free, or is it
I
kind
think
of
we are thinking
kind of,
about that rock
stuck
you
into
just
the
zoomed on.
substrate?
Copy that.
I think it's free, Chris.
Yeah, Pilot, I think I am
Yeah,
definitely
Pilot, the
drifting
one that the
to
left
starboard.
laser is on is
Okay.
what we're looking at.
So
I
we'll have to
think
keep an eye
that
on
might be
Yeah.
retrievable.
So pilot,
Pretty
you want me to
clearly, the
stop ship,
pilot
right?
Yeah,
would
come to
nudge
easy
it
stop.
with the tip of
Thank
the
you.
manipulator to
Bridge
see
to
if
the
if it moves. It's likely to be very fragile.
Let's come to a gentle stop right now, please.
But we're getting in position. We can take a look at it.
Copy.
Certainly does not look volcanic to me.
Yeah, it definitely looks interesting to me.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's definitely worth the poke.
Sure enough. Now, probably folks tuning in are wondering what we're talking about here. These animals form often pipe or stake-shaped forms that look like a series of tubes that create reef. These are reef-building animals. They have one valve that became sort of a flat lid, and the lower valve becomes an inverted spike-like cone. So the sizes of these forms range widely from, some of them are just a few centimeters in diameter to well over a meter in length. And the classic morphology consists of a lower, roughly conical valve that was attached to the seafloor.
bottom looks
And-
really interesting.
Yeah,
Boy,
yeah. I
Wow.
think if we can get this sample, it is at least suggestive of some of the morphology
it's
of
like
the
more like
rudest.
kind of tubular. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So
Well, that would be totally awesome.
Right,
sometimes
Pilot,
the cones
you
stick
are
to one
ramped
another,
up.
and
Alright, so
that's
what I'm
how
gonna
they
do is I'm
form
gonna nudge
these
this
huge
thing and
reefs.
see if
Show
it
me that
moves.
picture on your
Yeah.
computer
And if I
again, Patty.
can, I'd like you. Well,
These are
I
very
suppose you
large
could probably
ones.
just go ahead and bring that
Oh, yeah.
outside rock
Oh,
box in.
okay.
I'm
Yep.
wondering if
And I'm
Roland,
gonna put
our
it in
videographer,
Foresight
could
Dropbox.
zoom
Copy
in
that.
on this picture on my laptop. Oh, we have Tara now. Tara, I wonder if you could zoom with the camera behind up here on my laptop so people can see what some of these rudest corals look like exposed on land. Tara's just getting the feed up. Now, which feed would this be on, Tara? Okay. That's fine. If
Okay, we're poking it.
and it
Nudging-
looks
we're
loose.
nudging it.
It's loose, Chris. Oh, we want that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Pilot, do you want to...
Okay, science team, we're good. Chris, is this a good sample for you?
Coming in.
Yeah, I think so. If
right.
Patty doesn't know what she's looking at, and it's got weird texture there that looks fossiliferous, I'd say let's go ahead and snag this one for our first sample.
Sounds good.
Do you want this in the
You want it in a bio box or a rock box?
port rock box with the lid? It didn't seem to crumble too
I
much.
think it's sturdy enough, right, to hold up when we get to the surface. I mean, we're hoping to see some animals here too. It isn't just fossils. So
Right.
I don't have a sense
Yep.
for how big it is. The lasers are kind of distorted right now because one's on the box itself.
Looks like it's about
I think you could just
6
you could
inches
go
in
on a
diameter.
rock box.
Not the best view
Okay,
of pilot
rock
cam.
box with a lid.
Yeah.
It's up on feed 2.
So, folks, if you're interested in seeing what the rudists look like as fossils, if you look at feed 2, which is the middle of the 3 on the bottom of your
you
video
got it.
image screen, so click on one of those links, and you can see a picture of rudist corals exposed on land.
Video full wide on main HD, please.
Do any of the folks in the chat see this image, just to verify?
And Sean, upper swing arms tilt down.
Upper swing arms tilt down.
Watch lead pilot.
Yes, go ahead.
This could be fairly fragile. I don't know what you've got dialed in on your squeeze meter there, but maybe 2 or 3.
Okay, I'm on 3, but I can take that down until we.
Pilot upper swing arms are all the way down.
Okay.
I don't know if they'll. Yeah.
I just thought I might get a little more light.
Oh, wow, well done.
Nice.
It didn't crush. That's good. No, once the gripper has it. If it were really friable, it would have broken up by now.
Oh.
Good job,
Oh,
pilot.
what a beautiful
Very
collection.
nicely
All
done.
right.
Perfectly done.
Close the box.
Thank you,
please.
Jeff.
Absolutely.
welcome.
Port wing is going
Thanks so much,
outboard.
guys.
Nice little
I
close.
love that automatic lid. It's such a cool feature.
All right.
There's
Forward,
so
right?
much white material on the
I know.
seafloor here, Shirley. It sure looks like there's a lot.
Yes, nav PF report forward.
Yeah, so a lot of this could be fragments of, there were corals back then, so it could be coral fragments and other types of shallow reef species in addition to fragments from rudis.
And rudists were bivalves, is that it?
That's correct.
Yes, that's correct.
They were.
So the rudis bivalves are really fascinating, what little I know about them. And one of the reasons they get that very conical shape to them is that a typical bivalve shell, it grows in 2 different directions simultaneously, so that the smaller bivalve looks almost identical to the larger size. It grows uniformly. In the rudis bivalves, they don't do that. They grow predominantly in one single direction, and that's how you get these very elongated shells. In some cases, the shells can be pretty straight, looking like ice cream cones, like the ones that Patty and Shirley showed on feed 2 there. In another case, they can acquire these bizarre curls in them because they curl when they grow. They're not straight. And so they can look like all different types of things, and they can get
Maybe
enormous.
just before
They
the
can
switch,
get
push a
some
little
species
forward and
in,
starboard.
I think it's Jamaica, I
Because I think
believe,
Cirrus is just drifting.
can be like 2 feet across or so, or in diameter. So they're really, really an exciting type of fossil.
Yeah. Chris, I just Googled the rudists, and these are really, really interesting. You mentioned before they became extinct at the end of the Cretaceous period. I was looking at their ecology, and they were, real true reef builders, as you mentioned. Of course, looking at the, you're on mute.
The temperature was incredibly hot in the Cretaceous,
Hi, Andy.
So one of the most important constituents of reefs during the Cretaceous period. They were so successful that they drove the reef-building or scleractinian corals out of many tropical environments.
That's right. The waters were between 6 and 14 degrees C
warmer than they are
today.
Yeah.
And also highly saline. And this may have been a more suitable environment for the rudis, but not nearly so hospitable for the corals and other reef builders.
Cool.
What's also remarkable is when the rudis disappeared, presumably as a result of the catastrophic event that occurred at the end of the Cretaceous, they disappeared worldwide over the entire planet because they were a cosmopolitan group of animals. And that just means that whatever happened at the end of the Cretaceous, as we suspect, was just unbelievable.
Yeah, indeed, it was.
So the implication then of finding those fossils here means that this area is hundreds of millions of years old.
Well, all of these big
millions,
all of these big seamounts out here are on Pacific crust that is Jurassic in age.
Right.
So that's like 180 million years. And these seamounts are
like
erupted
like
in
600
the
million?
Cretaceous.
Yes. So would that be like...
No. It's more like 120 or so.
120 million.
Maybe
Okay.
50.
Okay.
But still, that's within the Cretaceous period, I think. I'll double check. The Cretaceous seamounts were built on that older crust during this incredibly warm period.
Co-pilot?
Pilot?
Let's see. So in your co-pilot log, do you have comps and tensions recorded?
So to talk a little bit about this particular site on the seamount, half of the seamount is underneath, and I call it the Asian plate, but it's not. It's the Philippines plate. And so I'm sorry, I've been calling it the Asia plate. But half of the seamount, it looks like, is underneath the Philippines plate already. And this thing is, again, it's about to disappear forever in geologic time, that is. And
hour, depending on how the piece goes.
As the seamount got closer and closer to the plate and to the subduction zone, it started bending. The seafloor started bending.
At such depth, the
seafloor started cracking, and the seafloor cracked right through
and then I think we should make it a standard practice.
So you now have these escarpments that are going right through the tops of the seamount, exposing
the oil shrinking,
inside
or if there's a leak.
They have been doing comps, looks like, from the
this
surface.
is giving us an opportunity to actually look hundreds of meters below the surface of one of these really old seamounts.
So I guess
the first time, I don't know how else you could actually see this. And presumably these rocks are not heavily manganese crusted because they were split open so recently.
No.
Yep, I think that's exactly true, Chris.
Chart.
Thank you.
Yeah, so do a new time, I guess.
70. These actually, all except for the hydraulics, but that's because they've been leaving them on now. It went up from 35 and it's now settled at 41.
Okay, everything else is the same.
Everything else is exactly the same.
This is Cindy Blaney. I have a question
So you want me to try to figure out
Kelly.
this mean tension thing?
What kind of time scale are we
once we get
talking
moving.
about?
Okay, wait a little bit. It's it's fairly calm. I'm not very concerned. We should just make a practice of it.
I have a note here. At 3,200 meters, HPU is
That's
idling.
a question for Patty Fryer.
Speed negative
Well,
220,
the
11
convergence
amps, and
rate
then all the other readings.
here at the Mariana system in today's time.
Oh, via pilot
we don't
cam.
know how
it
quickly
reads 2,200
the
psi when
Pacific
ramped
plate
down.
and the Philippine
200 when
plate
ramped
had been
up,
crashing
200 when
together
ramped up.
in the past,
Okay.
but right now the rate is in the south near Guam.
Okay,
about
pilots, a little hard for me to figure out exactly when we should leave the
45
bottom,
or so
because
millimeters
we're going to be doing that mid-water stuff, but I'll
per
work
year,
on that.
and
Meanwhile,
up at
to
the
our
north,
only
it's
waypoint
about
on this dive is to the
30
end.
or
So we're
so.
climbing this slope at a bearing of 250.
Oh.
It's about 460 meters away.
Okay.
Thank you.
And to make that, I think we're going to average about 0.08. I'm not sure how important making the waypoint is.
So this
I'll
might be a
talk
good
to
time to
science
introduce
about
the
that.
rest of our science
but, I
crew
can
who
probably get us
are...
moving in
Yes,
that
and
direction
then
whenever
our
you're ready.
brand
Yeah, you want to do
Well.
a 30-meter that way?
So we're going to go ahead and
Seriously.
introduce our rest of our
Everybody.
science crew
I
who
know they had to move
are
in. Have we
joining us
finished already?
from
They don't 40
understand
meters.
they
shore
stopped in
on
for
this
that
4th
sample.
of July weekend in the U.S.
Sounds
But
like
we're
doing
going to
intros.
start
All right, we can
with
do
one
that.
of our science crew
While they're doing
who
science.
has
And,
been joining
heads
us
up,
every
Carl, while
day
your swing
from
arms are out.
Japan.
Yeah.
That's Asako
All right.
Matsumoto.
Yeah, this ship is
Asako is from the
stationary,
Chiba
so why don't I get
Institute
30
of
meters at
Technology in
250?
Japan.
Do
We have
260,
a
serious heading.
few
Yep.
people
That's nice and center.
from University of Hawaii, so you already
And, I'm gonna move
met,
that point.
heard from Chris
That's
Kelly.
all right with you?
Yeah.
I believe Astrid Leitner is also
Great.
from
So
the
you-
University
You
of
can call it
Hawaii.
40 just for this.
Sonia
45,
Rowley,
I'll call it
sorry,
a-
I think you might be
yeah.
from University of Hawaii. I apologize for that.
Bridge, ROV nav.
And Diva Aman is also from the University of Hawaii, and Diva was the biology science lead on leg 1 of this mission. We also have Hong Pen Tong, who's from China, but at the University of Hawaii as
She's a visiting scientist. She's
So-
actually working on carbonates.
Yep. So, so this will be good. Good. We let me see who else. Debbie Blaney is from NOAA's Office of Ocean Exploration and Research, and
Right.
she was in Hawaii for a while, but she's back home, I think, in Silver Spring now. Let's see. Casey
Bridge,
Casey
ROV
Cantwell
nav.
is here on the ship with us. She's our expedition, our most
And by the way, when I
primo
first sat
expedition
down, I was
coordinator.
Let me get a
red
shot.
hydraulics.
She's from Ocean
40
Exploration and
meters,
Research.
bearing
We
260
have
flashing.
Bob
degrees
Carney,
at the,
who's from
sensor,
Louisiana
'cause it's
State
broken, sometimes
University.
it goes negative.
Scott France from their arch rival, the
Rich.
University of
Okay, that
Louisiana.
move is in.
And Tara Harmer Luke from Stockton University in southern New Jersey,
All right,
my home
turn up,
state. Let me see, did
fish
I
over there.
miss anyone? Don't think
moving
so.
away.
If I have
Yeah,
missed
yeah.
someone who is not
We see a
on,
fish.
we do see a fish. If I
We see
missed
a
anyone
fish.
who is not on the chat
Octopus
room but has phoned in and I have not introduced you, please let us know
Okay,
who you
video.
are.
Zoom. I'll try to creep towards him, or hope he keeps creeping towards
Okay,
me.
so what we'd also like to do is, since this dive is so short, we would like to be able to keep the ROV moving steadily upslope at least until we can find something else.
Something exposed in
Something
place.
exposed in place.
if
This is
possible.
a beautiful, beautiful,
lovely
beautiful,
fish.
beautiful fish. Believe. Okay, so Diva is Ophidiidae. Is that
I don't know if he's ever
Cuskiel?
been called beautiful.
Well, no, it isn't beautiful. You're right. It's not beautiful.
Chris-
Well, it's beautiful if you're a fish.
Chris Kelly's saying it's a Bassozetus species, he thinks.
Yeah, but
It's just
I'm not
a-
so sure we've seen this one
friends that
before.
one of those fish we found was
Based
not
on the round
particularly
head, the tiny eyes, and just an overall
Stop
gestalt for
shaming
these
weird-eyed
things. Unfortunately,
fish.
Bruce is not
There's
on.
one
But
that had,
Right.
I wouldn't
like,
be
its
surprised
tissue
if
was all
this is
kind of removed from
something
its
brand
head.
new.
But
This one isn't bad.
but on purpose. It was like its nostrils, but the whole head was like that, just kind of holes and clear stuff.
One thing that Bruce has been talking about is
Yeah.
that... Oh,
Go ahead, Diva.
No, Diva, you.
So a lot of the other ones we've seen are sort of more brown in color, and the eyes are actually tinier in relation to the size of the head, even though these do look quite tiny. So I think I'm going to definitely agree with Chris and say this
Back to the
could be
right.
something we haven't
Yeah.
seen before.
Cool. New fish.
Okay, want to come out of touch video? There we go.
Yep, we can just let him leave the frame.
Okay. Kind of feel like we're friends now.
I know, it was quite a moment. True.
See a little bit of current bringing me to port to the south, but very slight. Took me that whole time to get over there.
when Bruce Mundy gets online, he'll probably talk to us about some of the adaptations of these deep sea fishes, and especially adaptations for vision. Some of them can, some not only this fish, but many others have been adapted so they can
That's why it started moving,
perceive light, but not see
Shapes.
images very well.
It started moving.
One of our ROV crew,
Yeah,
Don
it started moving
Laboratory,
within a
just
minute of
remarked that this might be the first time the fish has even seen bottoms because of our lights.
Yeah, you do wonder what they think about this.
Oh, and their little
Remotely
people and their little fish
operated
brains.
Vehicles, right?
They're thinking, "Oh no, run away!"
Mm.
Alrighty.
Go ahead, watch lead. Okay.
We're the
I
bottom
like,
team.
I like 18 because bottom team doesn't sound very good.
No, it
Yeah,
doesn't.
we're going with 18.
We're going to go with 18.
Yeah. Go ahead. The largest one in the screen?
Oh, the one at like 8:30.
All right.
Okay, we're going to zoom in on a rock that Patty scoped out.
There's a sort of a speckled light-colored rock here that we are approaching. It's kind of just to the left of your screen. But it does look different from the other rocks we've been looking at. Rock zoom. We're at 4.
What is that?
Okay, video. Would you like to go in?
Yeah,
this
we can.
rock.
Wow.
Interesting structure.
These
Very
certainly are different from what we've been seeing.
Sure are.
Patty.
Chris, I think you called it.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Doesn't
pilot,
even
can
really
you
look
kind
like a
of
rock.
look a little bit to the
What's going on
left?
there?
Kind of
Yeah.
scan over to the left
Yeah,
of
I'll
this
just
thing.
go left this way.
Ooh, look at that round curve in the lower left. Well, Chris, I think when we get further up this slope, oh boy.
Wow.
This sure looks like limestone to me.
Yeah. To do the vinegar test later.
Oh,
Yeah,
no
these
problem.
are pretty strange.
Yeah, yeah. And they
Oh, see
do
that
have,
spiral in the upper left? There's like a little
there
spiral.
is a spiral, but I'm more interested in
And
the
that one,
cone-shaped
yeah,
thing
yeah.
in kind of at, now it's at about 10:30, but close to
Wow,
the
yeah.
middle of the screen.
All you
Right,
fossil
it's
hunters
maybe
at
moving
home,
now,
I hope
Nav.
you're enjoying this.
Okay.
Wow.
That does
Just
look
a little
more
earlier than
like
I
the
expected.
rudest
I see.
morphology.
It's about 5 minutes.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, 5, I'll call it 6 minutes.
Would you like a closer image of anywhere?
You want closer imaging?
Closer, yeah. Thank you, video. Yeah, if you can zoom in on the left half of the screen.
Okay.
There are some sort of paisley-shaped features. I guess that's the only thing I can call them.
That's see, I know
Are
what
they
you're
on
talking
screen
about.
now?
There we go.
Yes,
That's
they
it.
are.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so
can see Paisley
Chris, in your infinite wisdom about rudists, what do you think of this imagery?
Well, I don't know if it's a rudist or not. My knowledge of rudist is not infinite. It's very, very sub-infinite. But,
Okay.
this certainly looks like it could be a fossil something or other.
Yeah, it does. I agree.
Jeez.
But what it is, I wonder if anybody else on shore has an idea.
We need to phone a friend.
Yep.
Okay, want to go out partial video? We'll see if there's anything else on here.
Sure.
Might
Thank
be
you.
more
That'd be great. Any other
identifiable.
curly things? Paisley-shaped structures?
Tilt up.
The surface is very rough on the left. You know, like very
About,
irregular,
kind of center
jagged.
screen.
Sure,
Go
yeah.
in there. It's almost. Thought it was more of a spiral.
Looks like a bivalve there.
The lump, the brownish lump on the far left at 9 o'clock, Shirley says that looks like a bivalve.
I'm imagining things. I mean, I was
Yeah, it's
like
just-
seeing little spirals in there.
Yeah, I
and
am too, Shirley.
Look like elbow macaroni.
Yeah, I wonder if we could have the lasers on, co-pilot.
I
Sure.
think they are on. We just
They're
have
on.
to
Oh,
zoom
they
out
are?
a touch.
Yeah, 'cause
oh,
we're
I'm
zoomed in.
sorry.
I'll double
Yeah.
check.
Okay.
They are
okay.
on, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can get
So
a final
I
shot
think these
with
are pretty
lasers
small.
after.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Co-pilot, looks like you are definitely
There we go.
moving.
Yeah,
Those
I've
red
been moving
dots
for a little
are
bit.
Yep.
10 centimeters
about
apart.
7 minutes.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Chris.
maybe we
Closer to
could go
5,
ahead and
actually,
start
about 5
up
or 6.
slope and see if we
We
can
hit it right
find
in
an
the head early.
outcrop and get out of the rubble. a bit.
Rubble.
Okay.
Sounds good. We'll do. Moving up.
Yep, pilot,
All
that's
right.
great. Thank you.
Sirius is underway.
And the ship has just stopped.
Excellent. So it's about, for these, we did 40 meters, right?
Yes.
Sirius kind of starts just before the ship stops.
Okay.
That sounds right.
And if that's 7 minutes, then it's about 15 minutes a move, basically, which is fairly quick. And we did 40 meters, is that right?
Yep.
So we could almost, to wait for Sirius to stop each time, we could almost do 40 meters every 20 minutes. That would be pretty, that would
Yeah,
be
there don't
safe.
seem to be any
40 every
corals
20.
or
Let's see
sponges
how that would do
attached
on
to
our-
any of
our
these
wall.
rocks, right,
No,
Shirley? You
right.
haven't seen
Yeah,
anything?
nope, nope.
Exactly
Okay.
what we're doing in the water column.
I just heard it's an hour.
Maybe too dynamic,
Yeah,
dynamic
yeah.
a slope.
Could
so
very well be.
things are moving, the animals would get
Let's look for some more fossils.
knocked off or turned over.
Yeah, 40 meters every 20 minutes actually won't quite get us to the waypoint.
Okay.
A little bit faster than that.
Boy, I'm surprised by how much pale
wanna zoom,
carbonate-looking
center
material
screen?
there is down at this depth, well below the carbonate compensation depth.
It's pretty smooth.
And this this
I'll just
white
kinda
rock
drift
that's at the
around.
bottom of the screen
Hold there.
looks pretty pockmarked, as if maybe things are starting to dissolve out of it. Wouldn't be surprised. There's an interesting change that takes place also in carbonate rocks when they're exposed to seawater and remain on the seafloor exposed to it, that initially most bivalves and reef-forming animals use the calcium carbonate mineral aragonite for their structures, and aragonite will change its molecular configuration to turn into the mineral calcite.
Okay. You can go wide video.
So one of the difficulties for checking out how old fossils may be is that when that change takes place, it resets the age of the material for radiometric age dating. So that can be a problem for trying to figure out how old some of these fossils may be that we pick up if we're lucky enough that they are fossils when we get them back on board. But we'll take a close look, and we'll put something in the dive summary that lets people know.
Has there been any biology down here?
Just a fish.
Oh, that's right. I did just see the fish. Anything, nothing else though, huh?
Haven't seen anything benthic down here, have we, Shirley?
My guess is
Yeah.
that there are tons of microbes in this sediment.
I would think so, yeah. No doubt about that.
Carl, you want to introduce your team?
Oh, yes. All right.
Great.
Going to OKEX. Okay, so the team operating the ROV in the front row is a team of engineers from the Global Foundation for Ocean Exploration. I'm the pilot at the moment, Carl McCletchy from Midcoast, Maine.
As navigator, Dave Casagrande from Rhode Island.
And I'm Andy Listron, co-pilot from Houston, Texas.
Say hi to your mom, Andy.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
How about you, Carl? Hi, Mom.
Okay.
Oh, she's not listening. She's
Okay,
she's
Tara.
spending the 4th at the
I think most of our
ocean.
family is at the shore. Okay,
Yeah.
Tara.
That sounds like fun. I'm Tara Smithy. I'm the video trader for this morning.
And in our back row.
This is Roland Bryan. I'm currently sitting in the back doing some of the clipping up highlights.
And you are?
Oh, I'm Shirley Pomponi. You know me.
I'm Patty Fryer, and I know me too.
Patty and I are the science co-leads on the ship for this leg of the expedition. The biologist who's learned a lot of biology from the rest of the shore-based science
Have
team.
you come up at all, co-pilot?
I have been.
And from
I've been,
Harbor
you know,
Branch
coming up when you
Oceanographic
have,
Institute at
but you're
Florida
really far out
Atlantic
there, so I've been
University
giving you as much tether as I
and
can.
Director of
Do
the
you think you're done
NOAA
moving?
Cooperative
I think you should be
Institute
by now.
for Ocean Exploration Research and Technology.
when
We
did you
are
call us?
Let me know.
zooming
Yeah.
in on
I called it in
something
at
Something
22:40. We
stalky.
stopped
And
at
Patty
We're
is
stalking
we're stalking a stalk.
And,
Yeah.
should be
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, I can
Call
say
in
I'm done.
another.
And
Another
I'll wait
47
to introduce
there.
myself until
Sure.
after we
Okay.
find out
Alright.
what this is,
Okay,
Shirley.
video. Let's go in on this.
Because we'll
stock.
want to talk about it, I'm sure. Okay, so what is it?
Okay, once I want to move up the stalk, I'm
It does have an
thinking.
attachment at the
I
base.
know. Okay,
Bridge,
I'm
ROV
thinking
nav.
that this is just a dead sponge stalk.
High voltage just went down a couple percent to 34.
Very striated behind the base of the stalk to the left when he comes down again.
Sorry, Bridge, I didn't hear you earlier. We'd like to
you
repeat the
zoomed
last
down.
move. 40 meters,
the base.
bearing
There it is.
260.
There it is. I see it.
Is that
Yeah.
the
Hey, Carl,
sponge?
just look
Right
up ahead.
behind.
Yeah, you're seeing it. Yeah, there you go.
Wow. It looks like a
Thank you.
piece of fossil.
Maybe coral.
Yeah, it could
That's
be.
what it looks like to me.
Yeah, fossil coral.
Is
Yeah.
that max zoom video?
Not quite. That's max.
Interesting.
Myself listening
On
to too
the
many people again.
So that's
Okay.
not the sponge that fell off the stalk?
No, it's
No,
not.
The
Okay.
move should be started.
Jeez.
Okay, whenever you're clear, video.
Ooh, can't wait to get upslope and see these
Fascinating.
corals in place.
Oh, there you go.
Ooh, we have something in the water column.
What is that?
What is this guy?
Okay, video.
It's a preview of what we're going to see later on.
I think this is a cephalopod.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh my.
Wait a minute. What is that?
It looks kind of like a jelly, but different shape.
What do you think, Diva?
Certainly appears to
Oh
be
my.
swimming.
It almost looks like a holothurian texture, but
Yeah, no, holo, definitely holo.
Really?
Oh, I don't know.
you got the lasers off.
Lasers coming off.
I'm the silent one. I
about-
have no idea.
It's about 6 inches in length.
I think it's a holo.
Maybe like
Think-
Amperima.
Holothurian is
So the
what people are
consensus of
suggesting.
our shore-based biologists is a holothurian sea cucumber.
Swimming along.
I want it to go up so I can get it,
It
a black
does
background.
have a similar
That's
mouth.
going down.
Oh, and you can
Morphology.
see,
You'll
But
just have
that-
to get below it.
The back end, it
There's
looks
a
like a huge
Physical
umbrella
issue.
Copy that,
or
workshop.
bell, right?
okay.
I was like
Okay, the consensus is
Okay, come on, video.
holothurian.
Hey,
Okay.
God is
All
back.
right.
We have Astrid Leitner from the University of Guam.
Where is its gut?
Is that right?
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it's really tiny. That's what I'm thinking too. Really, really tiny. It's not like we've seen those like long
Co-pilot, let's
intestinal-looking things in the other
laser
holothurians.
button with a piece of tape, seeing as it's the only one we ever really press.
Yeah, we can do that.
Always
Les Watling has joined our chat room. He's from University of Hawaii, but I think he's in Maine right now. And he says, no visible gut, not your typical cuke at any rate. We can't see any sediment-filled gut visible that, like we've seen in many of the other holothurians.
Video, will you go in center screen?
Holding
Okay,
mark.
you can hold there. I saw an oddly shaped rock, but that's all it is. I'll just pan
That
around.
one in the center?
Yeah, I'll just pan around for a second.
Okay.
It seems this is about all we have, so you can search it.
Oh,
I see a
okay.
shrimp. Can you
He's
come
coming
wide?
in.
Oh, he was already there. Okay. Can go back in. It's a fast one.
Okay, folks on shore, what is this shrimp? Shirley just went to lunch. I'm on my own. Do we need to check out the antennae to look for leeches?
I didn't see any as we zoomed in.
I didn't either.
Those eyes look very interesting, aren't they? Oh no, just a shadow, I think.
It's like galloping through the water.
Yeah.
It's
they have a
really
funny way
moving.
of swimming.
Ah, cool.
No, he's
Go ahead
changing
and just let him
direction.
leave, yeah.
Okay, if you come out a bit, we'll check the antennae. Oh, they look pretty clean.
Don't see anything.
All right, you can come wide.
Wow, gorgeous video. Thank you, pilot.
It's all video.
Got some
Nice track
big,
car.
big black boulder
That's awesome.
here, nestled in a talus slope of black and white rocks with a thin coating
Co-pilot, you
of
should be
tan
moving.
sediments.
Copy that.
And very little biology of the sort that we saw on the dive yesterday, where we saw just hundreds
So Nav, are
of
we the group that leaves
corals
the
and
What's that?
bottom? Do we
crinoids,
leave the bottom also?
sea stars, brittle
let's
stars,
see.
and
What time is shift change anyway?
essentially nothing here.
We have a
30.
3-hour shift here, and there's 2 hours 45 minutes left on the bottom, so it looks like it'll be the beginning of the next shift.
When we get a close
18.
look at the white patches that you see on the seafloor, they have very smooth surfaces, like on the right-hand side of the screen as it's coming into view.
Video, let's zoom here.
And if this is carbonate sediment from small grains of material, you can see how smooth it looks, and that's likely because we are so deep. We are at depths below which calcium carbonate begins to dissolve in the seawater. So any surface that is exposed to seawater is going to start basically to dissolve.
Embedded fossils in it. Can you see those structures in there?
I do. Yep.
I have a bit more zoom if you...
Yeah, you can
You
go
do.
in all the way. See what some of these are.
Chris, it looks to me as if it's more that there are
I'll slow down a bit.
distinctive
Disorienting.
features
There
of
we go.
the material that's sitting on this surface. The material that looks like
Yeah,
it's
I agree.
yeah.
Not a whole lot on the main explore, but we're seeing, boulders and rocks and things that seem to have some type of potential fossils in them.
Yeah, although as we were panning up, it did look as if this material is not just a smooth coating, as if it were a precipitate, but rather that there are features within it that, as you suggested, may represent fossil structures. It's just that the surface has been smoothed out so much by dissolution that it's kind of hard to tell them apart without some texture. I'm looking at the sonar image from Sirius to see whether or not the Sirius is seeing a hard return from a wall-like structure. I don't particularly see that, but we sure are getting more and more white seafloor coverage here, so hope we're getting close.
Here's a look at the slope. We've been going up steadily.
Yeah, the slope view that we're getting right now is about, maybe 30 degrees or so. It's not quite as steep as the 45-degree slopes we were seeing on other dives where we were approaching a big wall and we had a huge pile of broken material, a tailless pile right at the base of the slope.
Video, will you zoom center screen? Can't. It's just a very
This is peculiar.
rock.
Yeah, this structure that we're looking at in the middle of the screen is very strange looking. Almost looks like parts of it are hanging over the rock,
Holding partial.
the black rock.
Okay,
That
pretty
black
thin.
rock is probably similar material that has been covered by a manganese encrustation. So manganese will form on surfaces that are exposed to seawater. Very angular piece of white, probably limestone carbonate. Looks like it's broken up to me. Hard to really recognize anything in these structures. Chris, do you see anything that looks suspicious to you of coral reef material in what we're looking at right now?
Yeah, so there was another piece that's a little bit to the lower right that was right over the darker rock that showed that same type of layering we saw, the flanges, or it could be, I've forgotten what they call them in bivalves, what you call those,
good.
septa maybe.
Co-pilot,
But yeah, it's
Copy
very
that. I'm still moving
complicated.
right now.
I'm not
A
really
little bit.
sure what's going on here.
Well, maybe when we get up to an intact exposure, we'll be able to see more structure. Fingers crossed. You know, the tan rubble that we see on the right side of the image coming into center now is probably a combination of rock material that has fallen down the slope and bits of manganese encrusted material, maybe from
So
up
when
at
did
the
you
top
call
of the
that
slope.
last move in?
2356. It ended around 2403. So
Okay.
Sirius should be about settling out.
The Sirius view, which is the center the center feed of the three on the bottom of your computer screen shows you the remotely operated vehicle, D2, viewed by the Sirius vehicle. And so you can see the surrounding seafloor that we're hovering over and all the boulders on it, and the fact that almost the entire slope is this very, very pale material that we're suspecting is just carbonate, reefal material that has fallen off the slope further up the dive track.